My name is Cassandra Blake, and up until 2 months ago, I thought I had everything figured out. I'm a marketing strategist. Not one of those glittery, Pinterest board types who spend their days arranging color palettes and fonts. No. I'm the type who builds empires from data, who sees buying patterns in dreams, who pitches million-dollar campaigns with a steel backbone and a red lip. I've worked 16-hour days, fought through rooms full of men who called me difficult, and still walked out with a contract. I don't tone it down. I don't wait my turn. And I was in love with a man who found all of that exhausting. His name is Ryan Kessler. 5 years of my life went into that relationship. I built him up. I calmed his storms, massaged his ego, and stood by him while he launched his startup from the ground. I believed in him before his friends did, before his bank did. But none of that mattered when he looked me dead in the eyes, voice trembling with guilt masquerading as honesty, and said, "You're just too much, Cass. If what you just heard interests you, don't keep it to yourself. Drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Your thoughts matter. And if you want to stay in the loop for what's coming next, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss a moment of this. Too much. Not wrong, not cruel, not toxic. Just too much. As if my love had weight, and he didn't have the spine to carry it. He didn't even cry. I did. Silently, with my fists clenched in my lap like a schoolgirl being reprimanded. 2 days later, I found out he was dating Hannah. Hannah, the intern. Fresh out of college. Soft-voiced, easy to please. Always nodding when he talked like every word he said deserved applause. I stared at her photo on Instagram for an hour that night, her head resting on his shoulder, his caption reading, "Some souls just feel like peace." I threw my phone across the room. The next week felt like a fever dream. I showed up to work hollow, put on my usual blazer and heels and walked into meetings like a ghost in lipstick. My friends texted, called, begged me to talk. I didn't. What could I say? That I lost him? That I lost me? One Thursday evening, I stayed late, too numb to go home. The office emptied out around me, lights dimming row by row. I was in the elevator, staring at the floor in a haze, when the doors opened, and in walked Damian Cole,
the CEO.
The man whose name made even the regional directors sweat.
Tall, cold,
utterly untouchable. I'd seen him maybe 3 times in person, each encounter more intimidating than the last. But this time, he just looked at me. Really looked. "You okay?" he asked, his voice smooth but sharp, like silk over a blade. I opened my mouth to lie. Say yes. Instead, my lips quivered. Damn it. My eyes burned, and a stupid tear slid down my cheek. I turned quickly, wiping it away like it hadn't happened, but he didn't look away. "He never deserved you," he said quietly. I froze. "What?" I whispered, stunned. His gaze didn't waver. "Kessler. He's an insecure little man. Men like that, they don't want a woman. They want a shadow." I stared at him, heart pounding. He knew. He knew about me and Ryan. About the breakup. About everything. And he didn't seem surprised. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. I stepped out like my feet didn't belong to me. Damian stayed behind. "Cassandra," he said just as the doors were closing. I turned. "When you're done crying over cowards," he said, "come see me. I like women who are too much." Then he was gone.
Just like that.
I lay awake that night, his words ringing in my ears. I like women who are too much. And I thought about all the ways I'd twisted myself over the past 5 years, shrinking my opinions, tempering my brilliance, dressing to make Ryan feel taller, quieter, more masculine, more needed. I remembered every time I let myself be less outspoken, less ambitious, less powerful, for a man who couldn't handle a woman like me. And suddenly, I wasn't sad anymore. I was furious. Furious at Ryan. Furious at myself. Furious at how easily I'd let someone redefine my worth just because I loved him. That night, I opened a blank document on my laptop. The title? The Reinvention. No more crying. No more shrinking. No more pretending. If I was going to burn, I'd light the whole damn sky with me. The next morning, I called in sick. Then I called a personal trainer. Then a stylist. Then a friend of mine who owed me a favor at a media agency downtown. And somewhere in that chain of calls, somewhere between fury and focus, I found myself again. The real me. Not the girlfriend. Not the supportive shadow. Not the woman who apologized for being strong. But Cassandra Blake, the strategist, the survivor, the storm. And this time, I wasn't playing by anyone else's rules. Not Ryan's. Not society's. Not even Damien's. But God helped them all. Because when I was done, they'd wish I stayed too much. The following Monday, I returned to work sharper than glass. New hair, new walk, new fire. Ryan passed me in the hallway and did a double take. But the real moment? That was in the boardroom. I walked in late. All heads turned, including Damien's. He didn't smile, but he did slide a sleek black card across the polished table as I took my seat beside him. I turned it over in my palm. On the back, in silver embossed letters. Call me when you're ready to play dirty. And that was the moment I knew. The game had just begun. I used to be the woman who begged for breadcrumbs and called it love. Now, I'm learning to starve the old me. It's been 3 weeks since Ryan told me I was too much. 3 weeks since I stood in front of that mirror with mascara tracks down my cheeks and decided I was done crying over a man whose masculinity was so fragile, my ambition threatened him. The morning after Damien Cole handed me his card, I woke up with one goal: to become the version of myself I had buried for his comfort. And to become her with a vengeance. I started by quitting my job. I didn't give notice. I didn't sit down with HR. I sent an email at 6:03 a.m., subject line: resignation effective immediately, with a single sentence in the body. Thank you for the opportunity, now watch what I do next. And just like that, I was free. No more office politics. No more pretending to smile while watching Ryan and Hannah flirt by the espresso machine like I didn't know he used to call me baby in the same breath he now used to whisper in her ear. I'd never been unemployed before. The unknown terrified me. But under the fear was something deeper, raw, electric, dangerous. Excitement. I hired a trainer named Gigi, former boxer, arms like carved stone, and zero tolerance for self-pity. The first day she met me, she looked me up and down and said, "You look like you've been letting a man waste your body." I laughed. Then I cried. Then I did 75 push-ups with sweat pouring down my back and rage fueling every rep. She didn't let up. Every time I dropped my knees, she said the same thing. He didn't leave because you were too much. He left because he wasn't enough. That sentence alone was worth every painful lunge. Next came the stylist, Jules, a friend of mine from my undergrad days who'd gone full glam influencer. I told her I wanted to look like money and destruction had a baby. She clapped. "Oh, honey, you're speaking my love language." She took me shopping downtown, where I dropped the last of my savings on tailored power suits, designer heels, and a lipstick shade called Revenge Red. No more soft pastels. No more romantic curls or nude gloss. From now on, I was a weapon, and I was going to dress like one. The mental makeover came last. I started therapy, real therapy. Not the kind where you nod politely and lie about journaling. This was raw, uncomfortable excavation. My therapist, Dr. Imani Grace, looked like a goddess and spoke like a scalpel. "Let's talk about why you fell in love with someone who dimmed you," she said during our first session. And I had to sit there, knees tucked to my chest, realizing that I'd mistaken control for safety. That I thought being wanted meant being tolerated. That somewhere along the line, I'd confused shrinking with intimacy. That hurt more than any workout. But it was necessary. Because the Cassandra that was coming? She didn't settle for half love. 2 months into my transformation, I was unrecognizable. The body was tighter. The stare, deadlier. The smile, weaponized. And as fate would have it, the moment the scars began to fade, the past came crawling back. Ryan texted me. "Ryan, hey, you free for coffee?"
Just to talk.
I stared at the screen, thumb hovering, heart cool and still. There was a time when I would have melted at a breadcrumb.
Now?
I wasn't hungry. I didn't reply. I posted a story instead. New dress, deep neckline, glass of wine in hand, a man's silhouette in the background who wasn't Ryan. Let him sweat. And then came Damien. He'd been quiet since the elevator encounter. I hadn't called the number on the card. Not because I didn't want to, but because I knew the second I did, there'd be no going back. Damien Cole wasn't just powerful. He was dangerous. Not the messy, frat boy kind of dangerous Ryan had, but cold-blooded.
Strategic.
The kind of man who could strip you bare with a stare and rebuild you in his own image. I wasn't sure if I wanted to be rebuilt, but I knew I wanted to see what he would do if I made the first move. So I did. I emailed him from a new address. The subject line was simple. Too much woman. The body of the email read, I'm ready to play dirty.
When and where?
He replied within 8 minutes. Damien Cole, gala this Friday. I'll pick you up at 7. Wear something that makes him regret everything. No signature. No emojis. No game playing. Just war. Friday arrived fast. Jules picked out the dress. A black silk number with a slit, so a hide should have come with a warning label. I stepped into it like armor. Let the fabric hug my new hips. Painted my lips with revenge red, and slid into stilettos that screamed don't touch unless you can afford the consequences. Damien arrived at exactly 6:59. No knock. No small talk. Just a sleek black car. The back door opened by a driver in gloves, and Damien in a tailored suit that made Wall Street look like a joke.
He didn't compliment me.
He stared. Then he offered his arm. And I took it. The gala was a blur of champagne flutes, glittering chandeliers, and whispers behind manicured hands. But I only had eyes for one thing. Ryan. He was across the room with Hannah, arm around her waist, sipping red wine like it didn't stain. When he saw me, his face drained of color. His jaw clenched. And then he saw Damien, his boss, with his hand on my lower back, guiding me through the crowd, like I was already his. Hannah blinked unsure. Ryan stiffened. And I smiled. Not the polite kind. The kind that says you should have known better. Damien leaned into my ear, voice low. He looks like he's about to shit himself. I laughed. Soft, dangerous. Good. Ready to make him choke on his regrets? I met Damien's eyes. Let's burn it all down. Ryan intercepted me at the bar, eyes wide and desperate. Cass, we need to talk. What are you doing with him? Damien stepped in without missing a beat, pressing a hand to my waist like a claim. She's with a man who doesn't find her too much, Damien said smoothly. She's with a man who knows what to do with all that fire. Ryan's mouth opened.
Closed.
And I turned to him with a smile dipped in poison. You said I was too much, Ryan, I whispered. So, I found someone who can handle more. Then I kissed Damien. Not for the room. Not for Ryan. But for me. Because the old Cassandra? She would have walked away. But the new me? She makes her ex watch. I've spent the last 3 years planning campaigns to make brands unforgettable.
Now?
I'm marketing myself as the one woman a man like Ryan Kessler will never forget, and the one woman he can never have again. It's been 3 days since the gala. 3 days since Damien Cole kissed me like I was oxygen and vengeance wrapped in silk. Since Ryan watched, jaw clenched, face pale, the air knocked from his lungs as if I'd reached into his chest and ripped out his spine. And the best part? I didn't look back. Not once. But let's get something straight. This wasn't about making Ryan jealous. Not entirely. It was about reclaiming the version of myself I sacrificed on the altar of his ego. And if seducing his boss along the way lit a few fires, well, some men are only capable of learning through flames. The first move was never just showing up with Damien. The first move was becoming the kind of woman who didn't flinch at playing dangerous games in front of everyone who once doubted her. And the next move? The next move would be unforgettable. Damien wasn't the clingy type. After the gala, he didn't blow up my phone. He didn't ask to see me again or drop roses at my door. He simply sent a 2-word text. Well played. That was it. No emoji. No flirtation. Just admiration wrapped in cold steel. It thrilled me more than I wanted to admit. Because Damian Cole wasn't a man who handed out compliments. He was a man who noticed things, weakness, power, precision. And he saw me now. Not as someone's ex or a broken-hearted woman in recovery. He saw me as a player on his level. I liked that more than I should have. The next time I saw Ryan was at Harper & Row, the boutique marketing agency where we once worked together. It wasn't a coincidence. Jules had invited me to an invite-only mixer she was co-hosting there, one of those high-profile, catered affairs where everyone pretends to be casual while calculating net worth in their heads. I knew Ryan would be there. He still worked on the second floor. Still wore those tailored blazers I used to iron for him while he showered. So I made sure to arrive late. And I didn't come alone. Damian walked into the mixer like the room owed him something. Maybe it did. Heads turned. Conversations paused. Champagne glasses trembled slightly as people adjusted their posture. And there I was, beside him, in a white satin dress that clung like smoke and a diamond ear cuff shaped like a dagger. Ryan saw us before we saw him. His eyes flicked from Damian's hand around my waist to my smile, confident, effortless, unreadable. He didn't approach. Not at first. He just watched, like he couldn't figure out how the woman he left behind was suddenly out of reach. And then Damian kissed the side of my neck. Just once. Just enough to make sure Ryan felt it. "You're enjoying this," I whispered, leaning into Damian as we drifted near the bar.
He didn't look at me.
"Only because you are." I sipped my drink. He hasn't blinked once. "That's because he's drowning." "And you?" He glanced down at me, eyes cool, unreadable. "I like watching strong women choose war over weakness." I choked slightly. "And what are you choosing, Damian?"
He smirked.
"To be the match you use. Until there's nothing left to burn." God help me, I wanted to kiss him again. But the game wasn't over yet. Ryan finally approached when Damian stepped away to take a call. I was sipping champagne by the balcony doors when I felt his presence behind me, like a ghost too prideful to stay buried. "I didn't expect to see you here," he said, voice tight. I turned slowly, giving him the full force of my indifference. "Really? I assumed your girlfriend would be, what's the word? Oh, networking." He flinched. "We broke up." I raised an eyebrow.
Wow.
"That must have taken up your entire lunch break." He stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe the Cassandra standing in front of him now was someone he couldn't quite reconcile with the woman who used to rub his shoulders after long days and wait up to hear about his pitch meetings. "Cass," he said quietly, "I think I made a mistake." There it was. The apology I used to fantasize about. The admission. The regret. The crumbs. But I wasn't starving anymore. "You didn't make a mistake, Ryan," I said, tilting my head. "You made a choice. And now you're realizing you can't unmake it just because you don't like what I turned into without you." "I miss you," he said. "You were everything." "Too much, remember?" I smiled coldly. That was the problem. He stepped closer. "And now you're with him?" I leaned in, voice like honey edged in venom.
No.
"Now he's with me. There's a difference." And then Damian reappeared. He didn't ask if everything was okay. He didn't need to. He simply handed me a fresh glass of champagne and brushed my shoulder with his thumb, as if wiping away the dust of my past. Ryan turned, jaw tight. "You know she's not like the others," he said to Damian. "She's not one of your conquests." Damian's eyes flicked to him.
Calm. Deadly.
Sharp. "She's not a conquest," he said. "She's the hurricane that swallows kings." Then he looked at me. And I'm smart enough not to stand in her way. That night, Damian dropped me off in front of my building. But he didn't leave. He followed me up to my apartment, silent the whole way. Inside, I kicked off my heels, heartbeat steady until he closed the door behind us and locked it. Then he walked up behind me, lips at my ear. "You're ready for the next level," he whispered. "But if we do this, there's no pretending. No going back." I turned to face him, every nerve on fire. "Then let's stop pretending." His mouth crashed onto mine, and I didn't resist. Because this wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about power. And for the first time in my life, I had it. For the first time in years, I'm the one holding the leash. For so long, I let Ryan Kessler define my worth. I dimmed my light so he could shine. I made myself smaller so his insecurities wouldn't scream.
But now?
Now I walk into every room with my chin high, my stilettos sharper, and Damian Cole's hand either on my back or on my body. It's not just about desire anymore. This thing between us, this magnetic pull, it's war disguised as pleasure. Strategy laced with sin. And whether I want to admit it or not, I like it. The morning after Damian kissed me, no, claimed me, I woke up in his penthouse with my thighs sore and my mind spinning.
He was already dressed.
Dark gray suit, crisp white shirt, gold cufflinks that probably cost more than my rent used to. He didn't say good morning. He said, "You have a meeting with HR at 11. Dress like you own the place." I blinked at him from beneath his silk sheets. What kind of meeting? He smirked. Let's just say I pulled a few strings. Then he was gone.
Just like that.
Turns out, Damian wasn't bluffing.
He offered me a position.
Not a pity hire. Not a let's keep the girl I'm sleeping with close role. No, he offered me a director-level job in his company. Head of brand strategy at Cole Industries. Double my old salary. A team of 12. Full autonomy. And the kicker? Ryan's company was one of our clients. I took the job. Of course I did. Because nothing screams, "I'm not yours anymore," like becoming the boss of the man who once said you were too much. Ryan tried to warn me. He showed up at my apartment the night after my promotion was announced on LinkedIn. His voice was tight, his body tense. "Cass, listen to me. Damian isn't who you think he is." I raised an eyebrow, leaning against my doorway in silk. "Oh, this'll be good. Enlighten me." "He's dangerous. He doesn't just fire people. He ruins them. He blackballs them. He lets people destroy themselves and then he films it." I tilted my head. Sounds efficient. He stepped closer. "You don't understand. He knew about me and Hannah before you did. I think he let it happen." My blood went cold. "What?" "I saw an email," Ryan muttered. "Weeks before the breakup. Damian knew. He could have told you. Instead, he waited." I didn't say anything. Not then. Because deep down, I knew Ryan wasn't lying. But what scared me more? The fact that I didn't care. Because if Damian let me burn so I'd rise from the ashes, maybe that was exactly what I needed. The first few weeks at Cole Industries were brutal. Damian didn't go easy on me. He didn't favor me in meetings. If anything, he was colder, more demanding. He criticized my slides, pushed me to defend my strategies, challenged every pitch like he wanted to break me. And every time I left his office with my heart pounding and my nails digging into my palm, he'd follow me into the elevator, kiss me breathless, and whisper, "Don't give them what they expect. Give them what they fear." It was a high I couldn't walk away from. And the office noticed. People whispered when I walked by. They called me Damian's girl behind closed doors. I could hear the envy in their voices, and the fear. Because I didn't flirt. I didn't apologize. I commanded.
And Damian?
He never once denied it. But he never confirmed it either. That was our game. One night, after a client dinner, I walked into Damian's office to drop a folder on his desk. He was sitting behind it, tie loosened, whiskey in hand. "You're getting addicted to this," I said softly. He looked up, eyes dark and unreadable. "To what?" "The power." He smirked. "It's not mine." I stepped closer. "Then whose is it?" He stood, walked around the desk, and stopped inches from me. "It's yours, Cassandra. I'm just showing you how to use it." My breath caught. His hand grazed my jaw, tilting my face to his. "And it looks damn good on you." I should have walked away. Instead, I kissed him. Hard. And when we finished, I didn't feel like a woman being used. I felt like a queen being crowned. The next morning, I walked into a meeting with one of our biggest clients, one Ryan was managing on his end. He was already seated at the conference table. He looked up and saw me enter, portfolio in hand, heels clicking like a countdown. Then Damian entered right behind me. He didn't say a word. just placed a hand on my chair and leaned in as I sat. The room fell silent. Then Ryan stood, eyes flicking between us. "Are you serious?" he hissed under his breath. "You're sleeping with him now?" I looked up at him, calm and dangerous. "No, Ryan," I said with a cool smile. "I'm working with him." And then Damien smirked. "Mr. Kessler," he said, voice smooth as ice, "we'll let Cassandra take it from here." And just like that, the power shifted, and Ryan realized he was no longer the main character. I've learned that some wars are won not in the boardroom, but behind locked doors. The moment I took the job at Coal Industries, I knew the stakes were high. But I wasn't just walking into a new career, I was stepping into a psychological chess game with my ex and a power dance with my boss. I told myself I was in control. But control is a slippery thing when passion gets involved. And Damien Cole? He plays dirty. Exactly how I like it. We were reckless. It started with a late meeting, 9:30 p.m., the entire floor empty, moonlight casting shadows across the glass walls. I was reviewing campaign numbers when I heard the door to his office click shut. "I need your insight," Damien said, voice low, closing the distance between us. I didn't even look up. If this is about the Diamond Tech proposal, I already ran a revised forecast. "It's not," he murmured. I finally turned, and the heat in his eyes made my knees buckle. "This is about you." His mouth was on mine before I could reply, lips hungry, hand tangled in my hair. We didn't make it to the couch. Hell, we barely made it onto the desk. Papers fluttered to the floor. I gasped into his neck as he gripped my waist like he was trying to memorize it. It was desperate and dirty and completely, utterly forbidden. And God, it was perfect. We told ourselves we'd be careful, discreet. But lust doesn't follow office policy. There were stolen moments in elevators, whispered promises during client dinners, his hand brushing mine under the table like no one would notice. They noticed. They always notice. But no one dared say a word. Because I was delivering results, closing deals, growing accounts faster than projections. And Damien? He was untouchable. Together, we were fire and ice, burning too hot to hold, too cold to question. And beneath all of it, I could feel Ryan unraveling. The real fracture came during a quarterly strategy summit. Ryan was scheduled to present a revised rollout for a campaign I had personally rewritten behind the scenes. He had no idea. As he stood at the front of the room, flipping through his slides, I watched him falter, sweat at his temple, voice tightening. And then Damien leaned over and whispered in my ear, just loud enough for Ryan to hear. "This pitch is solid. Must be your influence." Ryan's hand twitched. He fumbled his next slide. And I smiled into my coffee like the wolf I was becoming. After the meeting, he cornered me in the hallway. "Cass, what the hell are you doing?" he hissed. "You're not just hurting me. You're ruining me." I tilted my head.
Funny.
I remember being told I was too much. "Wasn't that what you wanted? Less of me?" "I was wrong," he snapped. "He's using you." I laughed. "No, Ryan. He's choosing me. Something you never had the guts to do." His voice dropped. "Don't come crying to me when he drops you the second you stop being useful." And that's when I realized something dangerous. I didn't care if Damien was using me, because I was using him, too. And that mutual destruction? That was the sexiest part. That night, I went to Damien's penthouse unannounced. He opened the door, shirt unbuttoned, glass of scotch in hand. "Unexpected," he said, stepping aside. I walked in, heels clicking like a countdown. "I want to talk about the pitch," I said. He arched a brow. "We already buried him, Cassandra. You don't need to justify it." "I'm not justifying," I replied, turning to face him. "I'm preparing for the next round." His eyes darkened. He set the scotch down. And then he closed the distance, so fast I barely registered it before his lips crushed mine. We didn't speak for hours after that. Because some things don't need strategy. Just surrender. The next day, I walked into the office late. Hair tousled. Neck bruised. Everyone stared. I didn't care. I was halfway to my desk when the elevator doors opened, and Ryan stepped out. His eyes found mine, then drifted lower to the fresh mark Damien had left on my collarbone. And behind him, someone else emerged.
Hannah.
Pregnant. Visibly. My breath caught in my throat. She saw me, then saw Ryan's face. Saw the way he looked at me like he still wanted to crawl back into the fire. And that was when I knew the next move would shatter everything. I used to think I was the one in control. But when you dance with men like Damien Cole, you don't lead, you survive. It's been 5 weeks since I joined Cole Industries. 5 weeks since I became the woman who makes exes sweat, closes multi-million-dollar deals, and seduces the man who runs half the city. On the outside, I looked untouchable, flawless. But the higher you rise in Damien's world, the colder the air gets. And one wrong move, you fall.
Hard.
It started with a phone call. Private number. No caller ID. I almost didn't pick up.
But something in my gut told me to.
Cassandra Blake. A woman's voice said on the line. Yes, this is Meredith Cole. My heart stopped. Damien's ex-wife. I stood frozen in my apartment, every cell in my body tightening like a snare. She continued, her tone crisp.
Polished.
Dangerous. We need to talk. Off the record. Preferably somewhere without cameras. I swallowed. Why? Because you're not the first woman he's turned into a weapon. But you might be the last.
Click.
I met her 2 days later at a rooftop cafe no one in Damien's circle would frequent. She was stunning. Sharp cheekbones, red lipstick, eyes that missed nothing. She wore power like a second skin. I know what he told you, she said, sipping her espresso. That he likes strong women. That he respects power. That he sees you. She leaned in. That's how he grooms you. I blinked. Excuse me? She tilted her head. Damien doesn't date women. He cultivates them, builds them up, puts them on pedestals. Then he watches what happens when the world tries to tear them down. It's his game. My throat tightened. You think he's using me?
I know he is, she said.
He did it to me. He did it to another exec before me. You're not the first. You won't be the last. I stared at her, mind racing. Then why warn me? Because I don't like seeing another woman set herself on fire for a man who never intends to burn with her. She stood, grabbing her bag. One day soon, he'll make you choose him or your dignity. Just be ready when he does. Then she walked away, and I sat there, heart pounding, wondering if everything I'd built was a beautiful lie with teeth. That night, I confronted Damien. He was at his penthouse again, unbothered as always, sitting with a glass of scotch, watching the skyline like it owed him answers. Your ex-wife called me, I said. He didn't flinch. She said you build women up just to watch them crash. He smiled faintly. She always did enjoy her tragedies. Is it true? I demanded. He stood slowly, walked to me. Did I build you, Cassandra? I hesitated.
No.
Exactly. You built yourself. I just removed the cages. You manipulated me. I unleashed you. I stepped back. Why me? Why pick me? His jaw clenched. His eyes, always cold, flickered for a moment. Because Ryan was too small to carry your fire. And I wanted to see what would happen if no one told you to shrink. I stared at him. So this was all a test. No, he said softly. It was a bet. I bet on you. He stepped closer. But if you're scared now, maybe Meredith was right. I slapped him. Hard. He didn't react. Just nodded once, eyes dark. Then I guess you're ready for the next round. And he walked away. I didn't sleep that night. His words rattled in my skull. I bet on you. What the hell did that even mean? Was he my partner? My puppeteer? My destroyer? I couldn't tell anymore. But I knew one thing. This wasn't just revenge on Ryan anymore. This was survival. The next morning, I arrived at work early, only to find an envelope on my desk. No name, no return address. Inside, a printed photo.
Me, Damien.
In his office, locked in a kiss. And on the back, scribbled in red marker. How long before he replaces you too? I've made a lot of calculated moves. But this one? This wasn't strategy. This was impulse. This was emotion. This was a mistake. A beautifully reckless, soul-shaking mistake. And I made it with a man I swore I'd never touch again. The anonymous photo shook me. Me and Damien.
Kissing.
His office. Black and white. High resolution. The message on the back. How long before he replaces you too? I didn't need a signature. I already knew. Ryan. Only he knew where that camera was in Damien's office. Only he had access to the old surveillance system before it was upgraded last month. Only he would go low enough to try and destabilize me. And for the first time since I started this war, I felt shaken. Because I didn't know if I was still winning, or if I had just become another one of Damien's pieces. I didn't tell Damien.
Not yet.
Because deep down, I wasn't sure whose side he was really on. Instead, I sat at my desk that entire day staring at the photo. Over and over. Asking myself questions I didn't want the answers to. Was Meredith right? Was Damien just waiting to replace me? Had I let him crack me open and pour gasoline on my scars, just so he could watch me burn brighter than the rest? And worst of all, had I fallen for him? I left the office after dark, ignored his calls, turned off my location. I needed space. I needed air. But where did I end up? At the doorstep of the last person I should have run to. Ryan. He opened the door looking like hell, sleepless eyes, stubble, wrinkled shirt. Cass. His voice was quiet. Is everything okay? I should have left right then. Should have said, wrong door, turned around, hailed a cab. But I didn't. Because I needed familiarity. I needed someone who once loved me. Not for what I'd become, but for who I used to be. I needed to get away, I said softly. He stepped aside. And I walked in. It started innocently.
Coffee.
Conversation. A little laughter. Some memories. Do you remember that trip to Charleston? He asked. When the GPS broke and we just wandered? I smiled despite myself. You kept insisting you felt the ocean. I did feel the ocean. You got us lost in a pine forest. He chuckled. Then the room went quiet. And he reached for my hand. You're still in there, you know, he whispered. Under the armor. Under the heels and red lipstick. I should have pulled away. I didn't. He stood, walked closer, brushed hair from my face. Damien doesn't love you, Cass.
He uses people.
That's what he does. Maybe I'm using him too, I said. But not like this. Not like us. And then he kissed me. It was soft at first. Hesitant. Familiar. Then it turned darker.
Deeper.
And I let him. Because I was tired. Because I was hurt. Because I wanted to feel something real again. But in the middle of it, in the heat, the sweat, the gasps, I knew. This was a mistake. Not because it wasn't good. Not because it wasn't desperate and human and raw. But because it wasn't power. It was regression. I left before dawn, shame coating my skin thicker than the perfume he clung to. I didn't cry. I didn't apologize. I just walked away. Because if Damien found out...
No.
When Damien found out, he wouldn't yell.
He wouldn't beg.
He'd ruin me. That Monday morning, I stepped into the elevator at Coal Industries, trying to steady my breath. When the doors opened, Damien was standing there. Alone.
He looked at me.
Quiet.
Cold.
Then he held up his phone.
A photo of me.
In Ryan's apartment. Wearing his hoodie. I hope it was worth it, he said, voice like ice over fire. Then he turned his back.
And walked away.
This time, I broke myself. Not Damien. Not Ryan.
Me.
The moment I walked out of Ryan's apartment, I knew the reckoning was coming. But even knowing wasn't enough to soften the impact when it landed.
And Damien?
He didn't rage. He went silent. And that silence? It was louder than any scream. The days that followed were hell. Damien didn't look at me in meetings.
Didn't respond to my texts.
Didn't speak a single word unless it was professional, and even then, he spoke to me through other people. The office felt colder. Tighter. The walls thinner. Every glance from a colleague felt heavier, like they knew. And maybe they did. Because when power couples fall apart, the ripples don't stay quiet for long. I tried to focus. On numbers. On briefs. On the stack of proposals threatening to bury my sanity. But everything kept circling back to that night. That choice. That kiss. I didn't sleep with Ryan because I loved him. I slept with him because I wanted to hurt Damien. And I did. Which meant I also hurt myself. Because now, I was drowning in a storm of my own making, and no one was coming to pull me out. Ryan came to my apartment 2 days later. Flowers in one hand, a guilty smile on his lips. "I heard you're not talking to Damien," he said softly. "I know it's messy, but maybe it's for the best." I didn't say anything. He sat down on the edge of my sofa. "I meant what I said before, Cass. I made a mistake. I see it now. I lost you once. I don't want to lose you again." "Ryan," I said, warning in my voice. "I'm not saying we pretend nothing happened. He looked at me, eyes pleading. I want to fix things. Start over." And then he said it. The sentence that shattered everything. We could raise the baby together. The world went silent. "What did you just say?" I whispered. He blinked. "The baby. Hannah's. I didn't want to tell you like this, but she's pregnant." The floor dropped out from beneath me. "You're having a child with the woman you left me for, the intern, and you're standing here asking me to be what? Stepmom? Redemption?" He stood, hands up. "It wasn't supposed to happen. She was never me." My voice cracked. "And now you want to fix your mistake by dragging me back into your mess?"
No.
"Cass, I made a mistake with you once. I don't repeat lessons I've already learned." I opened the door. "Goodbye, Ryan." And I meant it this time. That night, I went to Damien's office. He was still there, dark suit, sleeves rolled, jaw tight with unspoken fury. "I want to explain," I said. "You don't need to," he replied without looking up. "You already did." Loud and clear. "It was a mistake."
He finally looked at me.
"No, Cassandra. A mistake is wearing the wrong shoes to a meeting. What you did was a choice. And now I have to choose too." I swallowed hard. "Are you firing me?" He stood, walked around the desk, stopped inches from me. "I should," he said, "for breaking my trust. For making me feel like just another pawn in your game." "You're not a pawn," I whispered. "Then prove it." I looked at him, confused.
"Resign," he said.
"What?" "Walk away from the job. From the company. From me. If you really meant what you said, that it wasn't about power, then let go of it." My heart stopped. "Is this an ultimatum?" I asked. He stepped even closer. "This is me asking if I ever meant more to you than just revenge." I didn't answer. I walked out. Because I couldn't decide, not yet. Because I didn't know if I loved him. Or if I loved the version of myself he made me believe in. The next morning, I sat at my desk in silence, resignation letter drafted on my screen. But before I could hit send, Jules walked in, eyes wide, face pale.
"Cass," she said.
"Turn on the news." I did. And there it was. Ryan. Handcuffed. Frog marched out of Harper and Row on live TV. The headline? "Marketing exec caught in multi-million-dollar embezzlement scheme." My hands trembled. Because I knew what came next. I had the evidence. I'd gathered it before the affair. But I hadn't leaked it.
Not yet.
Not until now. And that's when I realized someone else had pulled the trigger. I used to think vengeance had a finish line. But when you're playing with fire, you learn fast. There is no finish line. Only more matches. And someone had just struck one behind my back. The video of Ryan being arrested had already gone viral by the time I reached Cole Industries. I walked into the lobby with every camera in the city pointed at the glass entrance. Phones flashed. Reporters yelled my name. I said nothing. I didn't have to, because the headlines were doing all the talking. Exec embezzled over $3.2 million. Leaked documents expose 2-year fraud pattern. Anonymous tip tied to Cole Industries and Cassandra Blake? I took the elevator to the top floor, heart pounding, palms cold. The only person who could have had access to the evidence other than me was Damien. And the terrifying part? I wasn't even angry. I was impressed. He was in his office, back to me, staring out the window like a king watching a kingdom burn. "You did it," I said quietly. He didn't turn around. "You were going to leak the files," he said. "You just hadn't found the right moment. So you did it for me?" "No," he said, finally turning. "I did it because of you." My heart twisted. "I asked you to choose," he said, walking toward me, "between power and love. And when you didn't, I realized, maybe you shouldn't have to." I blinked. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm stepping down. From coal industries." The room spun.
What?
"I've made enough. Built enough. And I'm tired of being the man everyone fears. And you're just handing me the keys?" He stepped closer.
No.
"I'm offering them. To the only person ruthless enough to handle what comes next." I stared at him, stunned. "Why now?" "Because Ryan's gone. The board trusts you. The clients respect you. And me? I'm just the shadow behind it all." He paused. "And I don't want to be your shadow anymore, Cassandra. I want to be the man who stands with you. Or not at all." That night, I sat alone in my apartment staring at the unsigned resignation letter on my laptop. All the decisions I'd ever made had led me here. Every betrayal, every kiss, every cold-blooded move. I thought love would make me soft. But Damien taught me something else. Power doesn't kill love. It reveals who's worthy of it. And I was done playing small. The next morning, I walked into the boardroom wearing all black. No lipstick. No heels. Just war in my eyes. The executives looked nervous. Unsure. "I assume you've seen the news," I began. Murmurs.
Nods.
"I also assume you're wondering what happens next." Silence. I smiled. What happens next is simple. I placed my resignation letter on the table, then lit a match, and burned it, right there, in front of everyone. I'm not going anywhere. The room held its breath. I built this brand. I saved your biggest client. And I buried the man who tried to bury me. I looked each of them in the eye. "So, unless any of you want to be next, I suggest you get in line." After the meeting, Damien waited by the elevators. I didn't speak. I just took his hand.
And squeezed.
Not in apology. Not in forgiveness. But in partnership. Because we weren't just lovers.
We were co-conspirators now.
And no one was safe. That evening, my phone buzzed. An email. No sender. No subject. Just a file attachment. I opened it. Inside, a video.
Damien.
Sitting in a dark room. Facing a camera.
His voice low.
His face unreadable. "If you're watching this, it means Cassandra Blake has finally turned on me. And I need you to know, I always knew this day would come." The screen went black. And I realized, the final play might not be mine after all. My name is Cassandra Blake. And this isn't a happy ending. This is a conclusion. Sharp-edged. Blood-stained. Unapologetically mine. Because when you set your whole life on fire just to prove you could survive the flames, you don't walk away clean. You walk away reborn. The video haunted me. Damien. Sitting alone. Hands clasped. Eyes tired. Like he'd already lost a war he hadn't even fought yet. If you're watching this, it means Cassandra Blake has finally turned on me. And I need you to know, I always knew this day would come. It's why I chose her. I watched it 3 times. The first time, I was confused. The second, I was angry. The third, I cried. Not because he was wrong, but because I had considered turning on him. Because when someone builds you up, sharpens your edges, feeds your ego like it's gospel, you start to wonder if your power belongs to you, or if you're just an echo of them. I confronted him that night.
His penthouse was silent, dim.
He sat at the edge of the window, drink untouched. "You left me a video?" I said softly.
He didn't look at me.
"Insurance. I never turned on you. But you thought about it." Silence.
Why?
I finally asked. Why would you choose someone you thought would destroy you? He finally turned, eyes burning with something deeper than lust. Something raw. Because, Cassandra, I only wanted one thing.
What?
To see you become the woman they said you were too much to be.
He stood.
Crossed the room slowly. And, because even if you destroyed me, I would have died knowing you finally saw yourself. I didn't respond. I just kissed him. And it wasn't soft.
It wasn't romantic.
It was a warning.
A vow.
A promise wrapped in pain. We were too broken to be whole. Too powerful to be safe. But for one night, we were honest. The fallout came fast. Ryan's arrest led to a federal probe. His intern-turned-girlfriend left him the second the pregnancy test came back negative. Turns out the whole thing was a lie. Fabricated. Weaponized. And it worked. Until it didn't. Ryan lost everything.
His job.
His reputation. His future. I didn't visit him. Didn't send a message. Didn't watch the sentencing. Because closure isn't always about confrontation. Sometimes, it's just walking away without looking back. The board at Coal Industries approved Damien's departure quietly. A press release cited, personal expansion. They named me interim CEO the next day. No fanfare. No scandal. Just a woman in red walking into a conference room full of men who never saw her coming. I gave them 6 months' worth of projections in 15 minutes. I fired dead weight. Hired killers in heels. And when one executive tried to interrupt me, I smiled and said, "Let me finish. Unless you're ready to follow Ryan's career path." He shut up.
Permanently.
Damien disappeared after that. No note. No goodbye. Just gone. Rumors said he moved to Switzerland. Some said Thailand. Some said he was dead. But 1 week later, I found a single envelope on my desk. Inside a photo.
Me.
Standing in the boardroom. Crowned in sunlight. No message. Just his signature on the back. You were never too much. You were everything. I walked past my old apartment one rainy afternoon. The one I shared with Ryan. The building looked smaller now. Dimmer. I didn't stop. Didn't even slow down. Because I had somewhere better to be. And someone better to become. They said I was too much. So, I became everything they couldn't handle. And nothing they could ever forget. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and comment your thoughts below. Would you choose love or loyalty? And don't forget to subscribe for more true secrets every day.